Self-discipline is often misunderstood as limitation, as something that suppresses freedom or dulls individuality. In truth, self-discipline is the foundation upon which true expression is built. Without discipline, expression becomes noise. It becomes reaction rather than intention. A person who expresses without discipline is not revealing their truth, they are exposing their instability. Discipline does not silence the self, it refines it. Before a woman speaks her desires, she must understand them. Before she displays emotion, she must be able to regulate it. Self-discipline begins with awareness, with the ability to pause between impulse and action. That pause is power. In that space, choice is born. Without it, life becomes a series of uncontrolled responses dictated by mood, circumstance, or the expectations of others. Many believe that authenticity means saying everything they feel, acting on every urge, and rejecting restraint. But authenticity without discipline is chaos disguised as honesty. True authenticity requires clarity, and clarity comes from structure. When the mind is undisciplined, emotions dominate. When emotions dominate, perception becomes distorted. What feels true in one moment may contradict the next, creating confusion within and instability without. Self-discipline is the practice of governing the inner world before attempting to influence the outer one. A woman who has not mastered her inner dialogue will constantly seek external validation. She will confuse attention with worth, stimulation with fulfillment, and movement with progress. Discipline teaches her to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, to examine desire instead of obeying it, and to endure boredom instead of seeking distraction. Expression becomes meaningful only when it emerges from control. Words spoken from discipline carry weight. Actions taken from discipline create trust. When a woman chooses restraint, she is not diminishing herself, she is sharpening her presence. Her silence becomes intentional, her speech deliberate, her movement precise. Nothing is wasted because nothing is unconscious. Without discipline, expression becomes a form of self-betrayal. Oversharing weakens boundaries. Reactivity invites disrespect. Indulgence erodes self-respect. A woman who expresses everything she feels teaches others that she cannot contain herself. But a woman who disciplines her expression teaches others that her words matter, her emotions are valuable, and her attention is not freely given. Discipline is built in small, unseen moments. It is choosing to wake when it is uncomfortable. It is finishing what was started even when motivation fades. It is caring for the body even when the mind resists. These acts accumulate silently, shaping identity over time. Confidence does not arrive suddenly. It grows from repeated proof of self-trust. Each disciplined action is a message to the subconscious, I am capable of governing myself. Self-expression without discipline often seeks applause. Self-expression with discipline seeks alignment. One demands to be seen, the other allows itself to be felt. A disciplined woman does not perform her identity. She embodies it. Her presence is not loud, yet it is unmistakable. Her expression is not excessive, yet it is memorable. Discipline also creates emotional stability. When a woman can regulate her reactions, she becomes less predictable to manipulation and less vulnerable to chaos. She does not collapse under criticism or inflate under praise. Her center remains steady because it is internally maintained, not externally granted. This stability is deeply attractive, not because it seeks attention, but because it does not need it. Before a woman demands freedom, she must prove she can handle it. Freedom without discipline leads to self-destruction. Choice without responsibility becomes addiction. Discipline is what allows freedom to expand without consuming the self. It creates the strength to say no when temptation is strong and yes when commitment is difficult. Self-discipline transforms expression into integrity. What a woman says aligns with what she does. What she promises aligns with what she delivers. This alignment removes inner conflict. When there is no gap between intention and action, peace arises naturally. The mind no longer argues with itself. Energy is conserved instead of scattered. A woman who practices self-discipline before self-expression learns patience. She understands that timing matters. Not every truth needs to be spoken immediately. Not every feeling needs to be shared publicly. Wisdom lies in discernment. Knowing when to act and when to wait separates maturity from impulsiveness. Through discipline, expression becomes grounded rather than reactive. Creativity deepens instead of exploding chaotically. Passion becomes sustainable instead of consuming. Even softness becomes strength when it is chosen, not uncontrolled. Discipline does not harden a woman, It stabilizes her so that gentleness does not turn into vulnerability and strength does not turn into aggression. The disciplined woman is not suppressing herself. She is cultivating herself. She is removing excess so essence can emerge. She understands that self-expression is a privilege earned through self-mastery, not a right exercised without consequence. When discipline comes first, expression becomes a reflection of clarity, not confusion of intention, not impulse of strength, not instability. Emotional stillness is often mistaken for emotional absence, as if calmness means a lack of feeling or depth. In reality, emotional stillness is the highest form of emotional intelligence. It is not the suppression of emotion, but the mastery of it. A woman who is emotionally still feels deeply, yet she is not ruled by what she feels. She experiences emotion without becoming consumed by it, and this is where real power resides. Most people believe power is expressed through intensity, through loud reactions, strong opinions, and dramatic responses. But intensity without control is weakness exposed. When emotions dictate behavior, control is surrendered. Emotional stillness restores that control. It creates a space between stimulus and response, allowing choice to replace impulse. In that space, clarity emerges, and with clarity comes authority. An emotionally still woman does not rush to react. She observes. She allows situations to reveal themselves fully before she engages. This patience unsettles those who rely on chaos, because they cannot predict her behavior or manipulate her emotions. When reactions are predictable, they can be exploited. Stillness removes that vulnerability. Emotional stillness is not indifference, it is discernment. It is knowing which emotions deserve attention and which ones should pass without engagement. Many emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent truths. Anger rises and falls. Fear appears and dissolves. Insecurity speaks loudly, then fades. A woman who has cultivated stillness does not build her identity around passing emotional states. She allows them to move through her without attaching meaning to them prematurely. This stillness creates inner stability. External events lose their power to disturb her center. Praise does not inflate her ego, and criticism does not collapse her sense of self. She remains grounded because her worth is not outsourced to the opinions of others. This grounded presence commands respect without demanding it. People feel it before they understand it. Emotional chaos drains energy. Constant reacting exhausts the nervous system and clouds judgment. Stillness conserves energy. It sharpens perception. When emotions settle, the mind becomes clear, and clear perception leads to wise decisions. A woman who acts from emotional clarity rarely needs to repair damage later. She avoids unnecessary conflict not through avoidance, but through awareness. In moments of tension, emotional stillness becomes a shield. While others raise their voices, she lowers hers. While others explain excessively, she speaks briefly. While others defend themselves impulsively, she allows truth to stand on its own. This restraint shifts power dynamics instantly. The person who reacts least often controls the interaction. Stillness also strengthens boundaries. An emotionally reactive woman feels compelled to justify, explain, or defend herself. An emotionally still woman knows that boundaries do not require constant explanation. She says no without guilt and yes without fear. Her decisions are calm, not aggressive. Firm, not emotional. This calm firmness communicates self-respect more clearly than any argument. Emotional stillness also deepens intuition. When the internal noise quiets, subtle signals become noticeable. Tone changes, inconsistencies, unspoken intentions. A still mind perceives what a busy mind overlooks. This awareness allows a woman to navigate relationships, opportunities, and challenges with precision rather than guesswork. Stillness does not eliminate pain, but it changes the relationship with pain. Instead of resisting discomfort, an emotionally still woman observes it. She allows pain to inform her without defining her. In doing so, pain becomes a teacher rather than a tyrant. Suffering decreases when resistance ends, and resilience strengthens when acceptance begins. Many equate emotional expression with honesty, believing that releasing emotion immediately is healthy. But unfiltered expression often transfers emotional burden onto others and creates consequences that require repair. Emotional stillness does not deny expression. It delays it until it becomes intentional. Expression chosen consciously heals. Expression driven by impulse harms. In conflict, emotional stillness becomes strategy. A calm presence disarms aggression. Silence creates space where truth can surface. The emotionally still woman does not escalate tension. She absorbs it, neutralizes it, and redirects it. This does not make her passive, it makes her formidable. Power is not found in force but in control. Stillness also protects dignity. When emotions overflow, dignity leaks. Regret follows impulsive words and actions. A woman who values her dignity values restraint. She understands that once something is said or done, it cannot be undone. Stillness preserves options. It allows her to choose responses that align with her values rather than momentary feelings. Over time, emotional stillness becomes a way of being rather than a technique. The nervous system learns safety. The mind learns patience. The heart learns trust. This internal harmony radiates outward. Others feel calmer in her presence because she is not projecting unrest. Her energy does not seek to take, it stabilizes. Emotional stillness transforms relationships. It ends cycles of drama and reaction. It shifts communication from emotional bargaining to mutual respect. It teaches others how to engage with her by setting an unspoken standard. Those who thrive on chaos drift away. Those who value depth and maturity draw closer. A woman who embodies emotional stillness does not chase control, she becomes it. She does not fight for power, she emanates it. Her strength is quiet, but it is unmovable. She understands that the loudest reaction is rarely the strongest one, and that real power is the ability to remain centered when everything around her is trying to pull her off balance. Self-respect is not something others give to a woman, it is something she establishes within herself and enforces through her choices. It is the silent standard that governs how she allows herself to be treated, spoken to, and valued. Without self-respect, boundaries collapse, expectations become blurred, and dignity slowly erodes. With self-respect, life begins to organize itself around clarity and strength. Many believe respect must be earned from others, but the truth is that respect is first demonstrated internally. A woman who does not respect her own time, body, emotions, or values teaches others to do the same. Every tolerated disrespect becomes permission. Every ignored boundary becomes instruction. Self-respect is not declared, it is lived. Self-respect begins with self-honesty. It requires the courage to acknowledge what feels wrong without rationalizing it away. When something diminishes her sense of worth, a self-respecting woman does not silence that signal. She listens, she reflects, she adjusts. Ignoring inner discomfort for the sake of convenience or approval creates internal conflict, and over time, that conflict turns into resentment. A woman with self-respect does not overextend herself to be liked. She does not betray her values to maintain access to people who drain her. She understands that being chosen at the cost of self-abandonment is not winning. It is loss disguised as acceptance. Self-respect teaches her that walking away from what dishonors her is an act of strength, not failure. Standards are not rules imposed on others. They are reflections of how a woman treats herself. If she honors her commitments, others sense reliability. If she protects her energy, others sense boundaries. If she speaks with intention, others listen more carefully. The way she carries herself becomes the unspoken instruction manual for how she should be treated. Self-respect also influences communication. A self-respecting woman does not beg to be understood or chase closure from those unwilling to offer it. She speaks clearly, listens attentively, and withdraws when respect is not reciprocated. She knows that explaining herself repeatedly to someone committed to misunderstanding her is self-disrespect disguised as patience. Emotional self-respect is equally important. It is the ability to feel deeply without surrendering control. A self-respecting woman does not weaponize her emotions, nor does she allow them to be weaponized against her. She takes responsibility for her inner world instead of projecting blame outward. This accountability strengthens her sense of agency and self-trust. Self-respect also shapes how a woman handles solitude. She does not rush to fill silence with distraction or people with poor intentions. She values her own company because she knows her worth is not dependent on constant validation. Discomfort with solitude filters her relationships. She chooses companionship, not dependency. A woman who respects herself also respects her future. She makes decisions with long-term consequences in mind rather than temporary relief. She understands that every choice either strengthens or weakens her position in life. This awareness guides her habits, finances, health, and relationships. Discipline becomes an expression of self-respect, not punishment. Self-respect sets the standard in romantic connections as well. A self-respecting woman does not chase attention or tolerate inconsistency. She observes behavior more than words. She responds to effort, not potential. When interest is unclear, She does not negotiate for clarity, she creates distance. This detachment is not manipulation, it is alignment. In professional and social environments, self-respect manifests as composure and reliability. She arrives prepared, she follows through. She does not compromise her ethics for advantage. People trust those who trust themselves. Confidence rooted in self-respect is steady, not performative. It does not need to dominate the room to be recognized. Self-respect also requires the strength to disappoint others when necessary. Pleasing everyone often comes at the cost of betraying oneself. A self-respecting woman accepts that being misunderstood is sometimes the price of staying true. She chooses integrity over approval, knowing that temporary discomfort protects long-term peace. Over time, self-respect becomes visible without explanation. It shows in posture, tone, and presence. It shows in what she tolerates and what she refuses. Others adjust their behavior accordingly, not because she demands respect, but because she expects it. Expectations, when backed by action, shape reality. A woman who lives by self-respect does not chase value, she embodies it. She understands that the standard she sets internally determines the quality of everything she allows externally. When self-respect becomes non-negotiable, life responds by filtering out what does not align and strengthening what does. Consistency is not a personality trait, it is a practice that slowly shapes identity over time. Who a woman becomes is not defined by her strongest emotions or her most ambitious intentions, but by what she does repeatedly when no one is watching. Identity is not something discovered in moments of inspiration. It is constructed through patterns. What is done consistently becomes what is believed, and what is believed becomes who she is. Many people wait to feel ready before they act, but readiness is unreliable. Motivation rises and falls, confidence fluctuates, and emotions change daily. Consistency operates independently of mood. It functions whether enthusiasm is present or absent. A woman who understands this stops negotiating with her feelings and starts honoring her commitments. In doing so, she creates stability within herself that no external circumstance can easily disrupt. Every repeated action sends a signal to the subconscious. When a woman shows up for herself again and again, her mind learns that she is dependable. This trust becomes self-confidence, not the loud kind that seeks validation, but the quiet kind rooted in evidence. Confidence grows not from affirmation, but from proof. Each consistent action is a deposit into her sense of self. Inconsistency creates inner conflict. Promises made and broken erode self-respect. Goals started and abandoned weaken belief. Over time, this pattern teaches the mind to doubt its own intentions. Consistency repairs this damage. It aligns intention with action, reducing internal friction. When actions match words repeatedly, identity stabilizes. Consistency simplifies decision-making. When values are practiced daily, choices become automatic. A woman who consistently prioritizes health does not debate whether to care for her body. A woman who consistently values growth does not question whether to learn. Repetition removes hesitation. Discipline becomes natural rather than forced. Identity built through consistency is resilient. It does not collapse under stress because it is not dependent on ideal conditions. A woman who trains herself to act consistently learns to continue even when circumstances are imperfect. She becomes adaptable rather than fragile. This resilience is not dramatic, it is reliable. Consistency also refines character. Small actions repeated over time compound into visible transformation. The woman who reads daily becomes thoughtful. The woman who trains regularly becomes strong. The woman who reflects often becomes wise. These changes do not announce themselves. They accumulate quietly until they become undeniable. Many underestimate the power of small actions because they lack immediate reward. Consistency requires patience. Results arrive slowly, but they arrive deeply. Sudden change is often unstable. Gradual change integrates. A woman who builds herself slowly builds herself to last. Consistency also creates clarity. When behavior is stable, patterns become visible. Strengths emerge, weaknesses reveal themselves. This self-awareness allows refinement. A woman who observes her consistent actions can adjust intentionally rather than reacting emotionally. She becomes the architect of her growth instead of the victim of circumstance. In relationships, consistency builds trust. People rely on what they can predict. A woman who behaves with consistency communicates safety and integrity. Her words carry weight because they are supported by behavior. She does not need to over-explain herself. Her actions speak with consistency. Consistency also protects energy. When routines are established, mental fatigue decreases. Decisions require less effort. A woman who knows what she stands for does not waste energy debating every choice. This conservation of energy allows focus on what truly matters. A consistent woman does not seek intensity, she seeks alignment. Intensity burns fast and fades. Consistency sustains. Passion without structure leads to exhaustion. Structure without passion leads to stagnation. Consistency balances both by allowing effort to continue regardless of emotional fluctuation. Identity formed through consistency is authentic. It is not performative or situational. A woman who lives consistently does not change who she is to fit different environments. She adapts without compromising. This authenticity creates internal peace because there is no need to manage multiple versions of herself. Consistency also teaches patience with self. Progress is not always visible, but trust remains because effort continues. A woman who commits to consistency accepts delayed gratification. She learns that growth is not linear and that setbacks do not erase identity. What matters is return, not perfection. Over time, consistency becomes self-reinforcing. The more a woman shows up for herself, the more she believes in herself. The more she believes in herself, the easier it becomes to continue. This cycle strengthens identity from the inside out. A woman shaped by consistency does not rely on external motivation. Her discipline is internalized. Her habits are intentional. Her identity is no longer a question. It is the result of repeated choices aligned with her values, carried out daily, quietly, and without needing recognition. Detachment is often misunderstood as indifference, emotional coldness, or a lack of care. In truth, detachment is the ability to see clearly without being consumed by what is seen. It is not the absence of feeling, but the absence of dependency. When attachment governs perception, clarity is lost. When detachment is practiced, truth becomes visible. Attachment binds identity to outcomes, people, and expectations. When a woman becomes attached, she begins to negotiate her values for reassurance. She fears loss more than dishonor, comfort more than alignment. Detachment releases this grip. It restores sovereignty over the inner world. A woman who practices detachment does not stop caring, she stops clinging. Clarity cannot exist where fear dominates. Attachment feeds fear by creating conditions for worth. If this happens, I am enough. If this person stays, I am secure. If this outcome arrives, I am fulfilled. Detachment dismantles these conditions. It teaches a woman that her stability does not depend on what she can lose. When fear loosens, perception sharpens. Detachment creates emotional space. In that space, observation replaces reaction. Instead of rushing to fix, explain, or control, a detached woman watches. Patterns reveal themselves without interference. Intentions surface. Truth becomes obvious not because it is announced, but because it is allowed to unfold. Rushing obscures reality. Waiting reveals it. A woman who is detached does not chase clarity, she allows it to arrive. She understands that effort applied in the wrong direction only deepens confusion. Detachment pulls her back from emotional entanglement so she can see the full picture. From distance, what once felt complicated becomes simple. Detachment also dissolves illusion. Attachment romanticizes potential and ignores behavior. It imagines futures that excuse present misalignment. Detachment strips away fantasy and brings focus to what is. A detached woman evaluates reality as it is, not as she hopes it might become. This realism is not pessimism, it is self-respect. Clarity also emerges in decision-making. When emotions are entangled, choices are distorted. Fear urges premature action. Desire urges compromise. Detachment quiets these forces. It allows decisions to be made from values rather than urgency. A woman who chooses from clarity rarely needs to undo her choices later. Detachment strengthens boundaries. When a woman is attached, boundaries feel threatening because they risk loss. When she is detached, boundaries feel natural because they protect alignment. She no longer over-explains herself or negotiates her limits. She understands that what is meant for her will respect her boundaries without resistance. Detachment also restores energy. Attachment drains attention through overthinking, waiting, and emotional bargaining. Detachment returns that energy inward. A woman who withdraws her emotional investment from uncertain outcomes regains focus. She becomes present rather than preoccupied. This presence enhances clarity in every area of life. In relationships, detachment reveals truth quickly. When a woman stops chasing, forcing, or compensating, the dynamic adjusts naturally. Either balance is restored or misalignment becomes undeniable. Detachment removes confusion by removing effort that was masking reality. Detachment does not mean disengagement from life. It means engagement without possession. A detached woman participates fully while remaining inwardly free. She enjoys without attachment, commits without fear, and loves without losing herself. This freedom prevents identity from being swallowed by roles, relationships, or outcomes. Clarity born from detachment also deepens intuition. When emotional noise quiets, inner guidance becomes audible. A woman begins to trust subtle signals rather than dramatic emotions. She notices when something feels off before evidence appears. This intuition protects her from repeating cycles that attachment once kept her trapped in. Detachment requires courage. It asks a woman to release control, expectations, and imagined outcomes. It asks her to stand alone with uncertainty rather than cling to familiarity. But in that uncertainty, clarity is forged. When illusions fall away, truth remains. A detached woman is difficult to manipulate. She does not respond to pressure, guilt, or urgency. She pauses. She observes. She chooses. This autonomy shifts power dynamics. Those who relied on emotional leverage lose influence. Those aligned with her clarity remain. Detachment also cultivates patience. Without attachment, there is no rush. Time becomes an ally rather than a threat. A woman who can wait without anxiety can see what others miss. She allows situations to mature before responding. This patience reveals motives, consistency, and integrity. Clarity is not found through force or effort. It is revealed through release. When a woman loosens her grip on what she cannot control, what truly matters comes into focus. Detachment removes distortion, dissolves fear, and sharpens perception. From that clarity, decisions become simple, boundaries become firm, and direction becomes obvious. Pleasure is seductive. It promises comfort, distraction, and the illusion of fulfillment. Purpose, however, demands focus, effort, and sacrifice. Choosing purpose over pleasure does not mean rejecting joy. It means prioritizing what strengthens, grows, and endures over what merely feels good in the moment. A woman who chooses purpose first creates a life of alignment rather than chaos, of depth rather than surface-level satisfaction. Pleasure is often fleeting, reactive, and emotional. It offers quick relief from discomfort but rarely builds substance. Many women chase pleasure without examining its long-term cost. Comfort is temporary, indulgence fades, and distraction leaves a lingering emptiness. Purpose, on the other hand, is enduring. It aligns actions with values, and values define identity. A woman who anchors her life in purpose is not swayed by the transient pull of desire. She is guided by the steady light of intention. Choosing purpose over pleasure requires self-awareness. It demands understanding the difference between what gratifies the ego and what cultivates growth. It requires a woman to observe her impulses without judgment, to notice when she is drawn toward ease instead of effort, instant gratification instead of long-term fulfillment. Awareness alone is not enough. It must be paired with action. Discipline becomes the vehicle through which purpose transforms from concept into lived reality. Purpose over pleasure cultivates strength. When a woman sacrifices comfort for discipline, she develops resilience. Every choice that favors long-term growth over short-term satisfaction reinforces her ability to endure challenges. Pleasure may offer temporary escape, but purpose builds fortitude. The woman who consistently chooses alignment over indulgence trains herself to withstand discomfort, to act despite fear, and to progress even when motivation wanes. This principle also enhances clarity. Pleasure can cloud judgment because it encourages attachment to immediate feelings. Decisions made under the influence of comfort or desire are often short-sighted. Purpose provides a framework for evaluation. When a woman is anchored in her mission, she filters choices through the lens of alignment. What serves her long-term vision is embraced. What distracts or diminishes is released. This discernment sharpens intuition and fosters decisiveness. Relationships are shaped by this prioritization. A woman who values purpose over pleasure does not compromise her principles for temporary attention, validation, or companionship. She observes consistency, effort, and integrity in others. She chooses interactions that support her growth rather than drain her energy. Pleasure may tempt her to tolerate misalignment, but purpose keeps her grounded. Boundaries are maintained, respect is enforced, and emotional clarity prevails. Purpose over pleasure also strengthens self-trust. Each decision to act with intentionality reinforces the understanding that she can rely on herself. Pleasure often demands surrender to impulses, whims, or external influence. Purpose demands accountability. The woman who consistently chooses purpose develops confidence in her ability to navigate life on her own terms. She no longer seeks validation through external comfort because her internal alignment provides stability. The discipline of prioritizing purpose transforms everyday habits. Choices that may seem small accumulate into a significant shift in identity over time. Rising early, exercising consistently, prioritizing mental clarity, dedicating time to growth, all are acts of purpose. Pleasure tempts her to skip, delay, or avoid, but repeated choices for purpose sculpt character. Identity is built in these small, consistent acts, and character becomes visible before it is spoken. Purpose over pleasure also creates a sense of fulfillment that pleasure alone cannot provide. Happiness derived from indulgence is temporary and conditional, often dependent on circumstances or external validation. Fulfillment derived from purpose is intrinsic, arising from alignment with values and the meaningful pursuit of growth. It is a deeper satisfaction, quiet but enduring, that does not fluctuate with the whims of circumstance. This principle requires patience. Progress in the service of purpose is rarely immediate. Sacrificing pleasure for the sake of growth is uncomfortable. Delayed gratification becomes a constant companion. A woman must learn to resist the pull of instant reward in favor of slow, cumulative gain. Patience becomes strength, and persistence becomes identity. Purpose over pleasure also cultivates focus. Pleasure distracts, it scatters attention across fleeting stimuli. Purpose concentrates energy on what matters most. A woman anchored in purpose does not dissipate her effort on trivial or superficial pursuits. She channels time, energy, and attention toward outcomes that align with her vision. This focus enhances productivity, deepens learning, and reinforces integrity. Spiritual and emotional growth are also nurtured through this principle. Pleasure often indulges the ego and comforts the self temporarily, while purpose demands honesty, reflection, and endurance. A woman who chooses purpose learns to navigate discomfort with grace, to embrace challenges as teachers, and to integrate experience into wisdom. Emotional maturity is born in the tension between desire and discipline. Ultimately, prioritizing purpose over pleasure is an act of self-respect. It signals to herself and the world that her life is not casual, that her time and energy are not disposable, and that her values are non-negotiable. Pleasure is not forbidden, but it is contextualized. It is enjoyed when it aligns, not when it distracts. A woman who lives in this alignment develops presence, power, and an unshakable sense of direction.